All right, welcome to the tactical step-by-step of getting your central calendar set up, which is going to be your Google Calendar. Again, we've already walked you through why we recommend Google Calendar as a part of the system and the strategy. And so, hey, at the end of the day, it's up to you how you decide to do it, but we are going to help you with the way that we know how we have been successful, how we have helped other students be successful. And so that way, we're going to be able to support you in the way that, hey, this is the way the entire community is running this system. It's better to go ahead and run it with the community. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and actually jump into the actual Google Calendar setup. And so the very first step or first part of this step-by-step setup is going to be to make sure that you are in fact using the Google Chrome profile for work. So we did a very, very in-depth training on what Google Chrome profiles are, how to actually set them up in a previous training section. So if you did not do that, if you did not set up your Google Chrome profile, if all of this seems foreign to you and you do not actually have your personal and your work profile set up properly, make sure that you are following this program in order and you go back to that training and get your Google Chrome profile set up. Okay, so everything that we are about to do right now, when we talk about setting up your Google Calendar for work, is going to be happening within your work profile. And how you can go ahead and check that is you go over here to your actual Chrome browser, you open up the Chrome software on your computer, and then you go ahead and click on the icon that is the top one, not the bottom one here, okay? And then you can go ahead and see, hey, which profiles do I have on my actual browser? So I have the one that I'm logged into, right? And then I have the other ones that I can switch into. Now, in this case, you'll see I am in a demo work. Obviously, yours is not going to say demo, yours is probably going to say work. And then you can obviously go ahead and click on the little settings icon there, and you can actually rename them as well, right? So if it's not renamed the way that you want it to be, you can go ahead and rename them. You can go ahead and edit and delete and all that kind of stuff, right? So you want to make sure that you are in fact inside of your work profile. So that way, as we go ahead and proceed with the actual Google Calendar setup, you're going to be able to go ahead and proceed with that way. Okay. So what you're going to do is from here, there's a couple of different ways that you can get over to Google Calendar. Okay. So in any browser part of Google browser, you can go ahead and type in calendar.google.com. So you can do that. Or you can also go ahead and throughout the entire kind of Google ecosystem, there's going to be like these 9 dots that are available there. So you can actually go ahead and click on the 9 dots, and then it's going to go ahead and show you all of the different tools that are in the Google suite. And then what you can do is you actually go ahead and click on Calendar that way, right? So either way, you can go ahead and get over to Google Calendar. Calendar.google.com is what it's going to take you to. And then what I'm going to go ahead and walk you through right now is I'm going to walk you through all of the kind of basic setup here for Google Calendar. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you can see a little bit easier. I'm going to walk you through exactly what all of this looks like, okay? And this is very important. And of course, you do want to double check. This is very important. You want to double check that you are in fact in your work email. Okay, this is very important. Whatever your business email is, that is what you should be logged into. Obviously, for me, right now, I'm into some random Gmail account because this is a demo, just a test. But if you decided to go long time ago with option number 1, which was the @domain option, then this should actually say support@domainname.com. Okay, if you decided to go with your business @gmail.com, then this should say, NutriFit Wellness Team @gmail.com. So you want to just make sure that you are in fact in your business email, because all of the things that we're about to go through right now are going to be settings for your business email, as well as the 2 major events in step number 2 that we're going to create are going to be for work as well. So let me go ahead and actually walk you through some of the basic features here when it comes to Google Calendar if you've never used Google Calendar before. And even if you have, this is going to be very helpful and useful for you. Okay, so at the very top here, you'll see that we have these 3 lines that are here. These 3 lines, what they do is they actually go ahead and collapse the left sidebar. So you'll see just like that. It is going to go ahead and collapse the sidebar there. And then right over here, this button right over here, what this does is that this button actually takes you to today, regardless of where you might be. So let's say, for example, we go super into the future, right? So depending on when you're going through this training, it might be 2025, 2026, whatever, no matter where you are, right? So let's say, for example, we go all the way into June of 2025, right? And then what you can do here is that you can just go ahead and click on today. And just like that, it'll take you to the day that is today, right? And so whatever that day is going to be for you, that's going to be right there, okay? And then obviously you saw right there, you do have these arrow icons here. These arrow icons are going to be able to control the time frame that you're in. And so you'll see right over here, we're currently in the time frame of a week. week. But what you can do is you can actually switch this, and you can actually go into, you go into month. If you want to see the entire month, it's going to ask you, do you want to get better notifications? That's up to you. You can go ahead and continue, ask me later, dismiss. I'm going to click ask me later right now. And then you'll see these arrow icons now are going to go into next month and previous month, right? So whatever you are set up over here for, if we go into year, it'll show you the entire year. If you want to see the day, it'll show you the day. So you can go back and forth through the different days. And then over here, this is a very awesome right here. This is search. It's a universal search, meaning that's going to search all of your events for all of time. Very, very helpful. If you do need support with any of this, of course, we're here to provide you a system and provide you strategy based off of our best knowledge. However, of course, you've got to acknowledge Google is a separate company from us. And so they're going to have their own support. You can go through that if necessary. Settings menu, we'll get into the settings menu in just a second, but you'll see on here, there's settings, trash, there's density and color. This is sometimes helpful if you want to go ahead and say, you know what, I want to see this, with black text. I want to see things that are, compact. You can kind of change things around. So that's going to be there. You don't have to mess around with it too much. And then there's just some other settings that are here when it comes to that. But the main one here for settings, we'll come back to that in just a second. Now, this other part of this is very important. This is actually something that Google recently put in there in the last couple of years, which is that in your actual Google Calendar, and this is why it's your central calendar, you can actually switch between your events and your tasks. And so there is a task manager inside of Google Calendar as well, which is extremely helpful when dealing with clients and those kinds of things, right? So you have switch to calendar, which is the one that I'm in right now. And then from there, you can actually go ahead and click on switch to task. And it's going to go ahead and take you over to the task list, just like that, right? And so then you can go ahead and add tasks and you can add dates to them. And so it's really awesome because it allows you to organize this very, very well. And then you can go ahead and click back and go ahead and switch back to the calendar view, okay? Awesome. So that's this part here. Next up, I want to show you is what happens on this left bar over here. So this left bar, again, you can switch between the different months over here on the left. But then the critical part that you got to know is that down here, this is where your calendars are going to live, okay? Now, what you're typically going to have, and this is what we would recommend, is you want to have as minimal calendars as possible. You don't want to be overwhelming yourself with like 10, 20, 30 different calendars. No. You want to make this very, very simple. And what you can do here is you can kind of clear these up and clean these up a little bit as well. So let's say, for example, I didn't want to show this one, I could X this, or I could click on these three dots. I could then go and say hide from list, display this only. I could click on settings. And then if I click on settings, it says sales and coupons. I'm seeing event notifications, all day notifications. And then if I go all the way to the bottom, it says here unsubscribe. So I'm going to go ahead and unsubscribe from this because I don't want this calendar on here. Okay. And so I am a stickler for making things nice and organized. It's completely up to you. However, I would recommend that as a professional business owner, it is very important for you to be nice and organized. Now, a couple other things I want to go ahead and walk you through that are important for you to know. You'll see right now, it does show us that we do have, holidays. I can turn that off, right? So if I select it, I can turn it off. Right here, I'm going to turn this one off as well. I don't know why I didn't delete, but sure, we'll just leave it there for now. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn on tasks over here, okay? So what's going to happen is that I can actually now, once tasks are turned on, and even if it's turned off, I believe you can still do it. And then once I go ahead and click, and either I click on the top part here, or I go ahead and click on a specific hour. So let's say, for example, it's 3:30 p.m. I can go ahead and create an event very, very easily. So I can go ahead and do a test event right over here, right? So just like that, boom, save. There we go. We got a test event. I can move this test event around, right? I can go ahead and move it here, just like that. Okay, and then if I click into it, I can also go ahead and edit it. And when I edit it over here, I can go ahead and set it over into different times. I can set this to repeat if I wanted to. I can add guests. I can change the location of this. So again, very, very handy, very, very useful in terms of how to organize all this, right? You got more actions over here if you wanted to go ahead and delete this as well. And of course, you could also get into that screen by when you're doing test event 2, for example, and then clicking on more options, you could do that as well. The other thing that's important to know here is that you'll see that it does allow you to actually go ahead and change the color of the event. This is extremely helpful if you're trying to kind of color code your different events based off of, if you have different things that are going on, it's very helpful. You can also do it from there, or you can also right click and you can change the color that way as well. Again, extremely, extremely helpful, extremely useful to be able to do that. Now, this was when I click on over here, it allows me to create an event based off of a time. But if I wanted to create, let's say, a task that was going to happen on Friday, but there's no exact time for this task, right? What I can do is I can go ahead and click on the actual kind of up here above this line. And what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and create an all-day event or an all-day task. Now, this is where it's extremely helpful, especially when you're dealing with clients, you're dealing with customers. You want to go ahead and kind of put a reminder for yourself, right? So like, hey, follow up with Lisa, right? Or whoever Lisa is, right? And you kind of put a description for yourself. You can kind of set what list you want that to go to, and then you can go ahead and hit save. And then just like that, you'll see if I go ahead and expand this, it did give me that kind of notification there where, hey, I can switch between tasks and I can switch between calendar. I'll be honest with you, normally we just use it in calendar view because then this is kind of becomes a central hub of looking at, hey, what are all of the tasks that we have, as well as what are all of the events that I need to show up and be there for. Now, in the next step, I am going to walk you through how to create 2 very important calendar events. So that way it's going to block off, the morning and the evening time. So that way you don't have to worry about anybody booking at like 3 o'clock in the morning or something crazy like that. But what we're doing right now is just walking you through the overall setup of Google Calendar. So that way you're very, very familiar with it once we start doing some of the advanced stuff that you're going to be getting into in the upcoming training sections. Some of the other things I want to go ahead and show you is that if I do go ahead and go into the settings of this calendar, right? So right over here, I go to settings and sharing. You'll see that it does allow me to change the name of the calendar if I wanted to do that. I do have some additional kind of instructions here, whatever I want to go ahead and set. I can mess around with the notification preferences that are the default for all of the events that are on there as well. So it gives me a lot of settings on there. Additionally, there is settings that are global for the entire Google Calendar. If I go over here to settings here, and then you'll see it allows me to go ahead and set either the time zone, the world clock, the language, the notification settings, the view option. So if you're, again, you don't want to show weekends, you don't want to show, different stuff, show a number of weeks. There's a lot of different settings that you can do with this to kind of make it personal for you. And so if this is the first time that you're playing around with Google Calendar, if you're not used to it, take some time to really look through it, see how you want it to be able to show for yourself, because it's going to be extremely valuable as a tool for you in your business. Now, once we get into the next training section, we talk about the business scheduler. That's going to be actually how you're going to integrate with your business scheduler software. So that way, automatically, you're going to have business events that are automatically actually going to show up on your calendar without you even having to do anything, without you having to create them. So we're going to walk you through that integration, how to connect them both later on. But right now, again, we're just walking you through the basics of Google Calendar. So that way you can start to use it in your life as a tool. And again, remember, we are showing you the system that works for us and that has worked for hundreds of other community members and thousands of other students who have gone through this program. You are welcome to try and create your own system. Innovation is more than welcome. However, do also remember there's a fine line between innovation and then going out there and all of a sudden creating your own new system and then saying, oh, hey, how do I connect all this together? So just keep that in mind. If you go ahead and try to do things differently, we might not be able to help you. So if you don't know what you're doing, we would recommend just stick to what it is that we're recommending. And if you do know what you're doing, by all means, go ahead and feel free to go ahead and experiment a little bit more here, right? Now, in regards to how many calendars you should have, we would recommend just keep that one calendar that you do have. Down the road, if you do decide that you want to go ahead and have more calendars, sure. But in the beginning, especially as a first step, if you're starting to build this into a habit for yourself, if you've never had a lot of experience with Google Calendar, we would recommend keeping it very, very simple. That way it's going to be much more easier to actually manage. And then down the road, as you get more advanced, you will be able to go ahead and add more calendars, or, if you need more calendars, you can always play around with those in the future. Okay. So this, ladies and gentlemen, has been this training on the actual setup of Google Calendar, walking you through the onboarding of Google Calendar, just making sure that, hey, as long as you're in your Google Chrome profile, right, and you are properly logged into your business email, guess what? Google Chrome is free and is available for you. So just make sure that you are familiarizing yourself with this if you've never used this before. But this is not done yet, because what we're going to do is in the next step, in the next training section, we're going to walk you through creating 2 very important events. And this is, again, a pro tip that we've learned after doing this a very long time. So that way you can make sure that nobody's booking appointments with you at 4 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, or something crazy like that. We're going to walk you through that in the very next training section. But for right now, make sure you go out there and get your Google Calendar set up the way that we've talked about it inside of this training section. With that being said, we will catch you in the next training section.